Okay, folks, we're back again with another episode of Just Imagine. This weird mini thought experiment kind of thing where me and my host Jake, co-host Jake, go along for characters from various comic book universes and throw them into another one to see what kind of splash they'd make. And this time we're going to be doing Kraven the Hunter. A very interesting pick that I'm curious to see why you decided to go with this one, Jake.
Yeah, Kraven, well, first off, he's got the best costume in comics.
Specifically, the Kraven's Last Hunt version where he's just got a loincloth.
Yeah, it's the best. And no, I will hear no arguments against it. Kraven's got the best costume. So we need to see that fashion in the DC universe. But second off, he's such an interesting villain that pairs off so well with so many DC characters. I in my head already, I can already think of like several DC characters. One in particular that's probably the obvious one that he would pair off so well against. And I'm just thinking like Kraven in the Suicide Squad, Kraven doing other, joining other groups throughout the DC universe. And I just think that because if we look at these last 3 episodes we've done Superman, which is a huge addition to the Marvel universe. Spider-Man, a huge Marvel character that we ultimately decided probably would amount to nothing in the DC universe. And then we did Lex Luthor in Marvel, which was on par with Superman as far as the impact that would make. Kraven, I feel, might be more akin to Spider-Man, but being a villain, I feel like there's so many options that we have to take with him. I'm really fascinated to see where we go. We always kind of crack open the shell once we start talking, so I'm eager to see where our ideas get us going this time around.
Yeah, and so Kraven's an interesting character because obviously he's got what his deal is in Marvel, and the reason why he goes after Spider-Man is because he has conquered every type of prey on Earth, and then he hears word of this new type of animal in the streets of New York, this Spider-Man, and he initially goes there out of like curiosity, but then as he is bested by Spider-Man, he starts to enjoy the thrill of the hunt, and he gets an obsession with Spider-Man until eventually it leads to him realizing his age, and then Kraven's Last Hunt goes down, and then he's revived much later on, and then he gets this kind of like only Spider-Man can kill him kind of thing. So there's a lot of convoluted things with Kraven, but on his core, his basic idea is he's always looking for a challenge.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about him and what's different about him compared to the last 2 episodes that we've done is that you can take his exact same origin and it maps just as well to DC as it does to Marvel. Because you could introduce him at the exact same time at DC where he hears rumors about a Batman in Gotham City and decides, okay, I'm going to go hunt this Batman. Or you could even do it where like he's introduced at the same time that Man-Bat is introduced, because Man-Bat is actually more animalistic than, Batman is. And I feel like he just transplants so well into Gotham City and Batman in general. So that is, I think, the natural progression. And the one that jumps out to everybody is like, everybody wants to see Kraven versus Batman.
Mm-hmm. Because it's obviously any animal-themed hero works perfectly with Kraven. And there's many of them in DC.
Yeah, there's a lot. Because he would be great for Animal Man, too. Like, Animal Man would be so fascinating up against Kraven. The whole Beast Boy, the whole Bat family. Kraven would, maybe even more so than Batman, Kraven would make an excellent Teen Titans villain.
Mm-hmm. Go after Robin as well.
Yeah, you've got Robin and you've got Raven, which is a name. Really, name alone is the only thing that's an animal about her. But Kraven maybe is a little more one note in DC than he is in Marvel if he's only going after people with animal names. But Beast Boy and Robin would be fascinating. But yeah, I feel like he's just so cool. I don't know. I don't know as much about Kraven as you do, but my big thing with him is that like he's just a cool villain. He's just fat. Every time he shows up, it's going to be a physical encounter. And so like I would love to see what would happen if Kraven would have to pair off against Batman or against Robin. Like, can you imagine Kraven versus Damian?
Oh my god.
Right. Like, he would. He might even supplant Deathstroke.
Because
in DC.
unlike Deathstroke, he's actually fun to read, and like he's a fun character. Oh snap!
Oh no. Well, I'll disagree with that, because the modern Deathstroke series is amazing. But for every other era of Deathstroke, yes, Kraven's actually way more engaging to read than Deathstroke is, and without like the complicated family stuff too that Deathstroke has going on. But yeah, and I think that, like, say you pair him off against Batman, like the most obvious choice, I feel like he would make a really interesting resident of Arkham Asylum. Like, I would love to see Kraven interact with the rest of Batman's villains, because you could almost see like a 6-issue miniseries where like Kraven wants to put down the Joker because he just realizes that the Joker is just this like rabid dog that realistically, if the Joker would get his way, Batman would be dead, but there would also probably be so much toxin running through, the rivers and and all that kind of stuff that a lot of wildlife would die. And I don't really know if Kraven is like a wildlife enthusiast. I know he enjoys the thrill of the hunt, but he also has like the respect of the hunt. He doesn't just want the wanton killing of animals.
Yeah, he hates poachers.
Right. And so, like, you could almost like a really interesting 6-issue miniseries of like Kraven hunting the Joker, or like a pairing of, like, imagine like Kraven and Two-Face, like a pairing of what those two would do.
I mean, I think you're missing the obvious one here: is Kraven versus Killer Croc.
Oh yeah,
in the sewers of Gotham.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I had that had not even crossed my mind. So thank you for saying that. Literally the most obvious choice. Would be fascinating, and that would probably even make like a really interesting modern introduction of Kraven, is like, Killer Croc maybe even like comes to Batman and is like, hey, like, I know we don't always agree on everything, but there is this dude down in the sewers that has almost killed me every night this week. Like, I need you to not let this man kill me. Mm-hmm. And you could see like, Batman protecting Killer Croc from Kraven the Hunter. But yeah, like you said, Beast Boy, like, would you think that someone like Kraven would almost elevate the profile of Beast Boy and even maybe make him like graduate from the Teen Titans, a team that he's almost never been separate from?
I don't know, because I feel like Beast Boy is such a ensemble type character. He really only works in groups because there's not a lot to him outside of that. But I feel like Kraven specifically, it's weird because he started off as like a C-tier Spider-Man villain. Like, not a lot of people cared about him in his first appearances because I like them, but he didn't really resonate like Green Goblin or Doc Ock did. He was more on the same tier as like Vulture or something. But then you got Kraven's Last Hunt, and he instantly skyrockets to like the A tier of Spider-Man villains because of that, how well that story is written, and like people really kind of getting what he's about. And then ever since then, every time he shows up, he's got that weight because he was in such a seminal storyline. If we're just transferring from DC from the beginning, at first you'd be like, oh wow, that doesn't happen then. But you'd be wrong, because I don't know if you know this, Jake, but do you know the origins of Kraven's Last Hunt?
No, I don't, actually.
It was a Batman story.
Was it really?
It was a Batman pitch. And it got transferred to be a Spider-Man pitch. But the original story was going to be Hugo Strange in the role of Kraven and Batman in the role of Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
So, all you have to do is just get JD Mateus, I forget how to pronounce the last name there, but get him to do Kraven's Last Hunt at DC as Kraven like maybe say Kraven gets introduced as a Batman villain in like the 60s or something, then they keep him around for a bit. You just put the same scenario. It will probably get even more critical acclaim because of how big Batman solo is, like trade paperbacks get, like big.
Yeah.
If that could be one of the biggest, like that would be in the same level as like, oh, what's your favorite Batman story? Dark Knight Returns, Year One, Kraven's Last Hunt. Like
right.
And you just do Kraven's Last Hunt but with Batman, and then he immediately, obviously with the ending of that issue, you're gonna have that storyline, you're gonna have to leave him off the table for a little while, but he is instantly memorable. You maybe do the resurrection thing, or after like a crisis or something, a New 52, you bring him back as like one of the Batman villains, and he comes in and he's got that weight still, but because he's been off the board for a little bit, and you don't have to worry about the weird like resurrection thing in Marvel because you just reboot. He's always got that kind of almost, I feel like maybe you wouldn't even get Bane, because if Kraven's Last Hunt happens, I don't think Nightfall would be the same, because it's kind of the same story, but better told.
Yeah, that is true. In a lot of ways, Kraven is almost like a better version of Bane. I don't like Bane very much. I know that Bane's really popular, but other than the like modern Tom King story, I don't really like Bane as like a main villain of Batman. Like as an equal of Batman, I don't really like that telling of Bane. I think Kraven works in that role so much better than Bane does, especially with like the right person behind it. And like by the right person, I mean anybody but Chuck Dixon. If Kraven would take that spot, I feel like that story just becomes so much more fascinating, because it's not just this guy that has to use Venom to overpower a weakened, sickened Batman. It almost makes more sense for someone like Kraven to like plan out his hunt that way.
Because he is one of the few characters like Batman who can defeat nearly anyone with prep time.
Right, exactly. Who wins? Batman with prep time or Kraven with prep time? Like
that'd be really interesting. Like you see them both trying to hunt each other.
Right. And they did that 6-issue arc in Deathstroke recently that was Deathstroke versus Batman, which was literally just like 6 issues of them just beating the tar out of each other, and also stalking each other, off and on. And you could do that with Kraven and Batman, and it would be just as engaging, almost more engaging, because Kraven's an actual hunter. But yeah, you could see him staging the breakout at Arkham, staging for Batman to be so overworked that he's almost sick and weakened to the point that he strikes at the exact right moment. And maybe you don't get like the backbreaking sequence, but something just as bad.
No, he buries him next to Thomas and Martha Wayne.
Or something. It would almost be like a mental thing for Batman to be so eviscerated that it's not a physical thing that he has to overcome, it's a mental thing that he has to overcome.
And then you get, it works even better, the whole Kraven takes on the costume of the person to prove that he's better than them, because Kraven's, I think, is a masterpiece, but it is always kind of like, Kraven can't swing webs or anything, he's not Spider-Man, so he has to kind of make up for that, but he could be Batman easily.
Oh yeah, well, and what's even better about that is that you would just get to see Kraven kick the shit out of Jean Paul Valley.
Well, you wouldn't even need Jean Paul Valley, because Kraven would be Bane and Jean Paul Valley in one.
Right. Well,
he would be the guy that takes out Batman and the crazy successor.
Yeah, and which is the best universe, because Jean Paul Valley is awful. So we would be totally okay with that. Yeah, that would be oh man, because then you could even get like the interactions that he would have with Nightwing and all that kind of stuff. Like, why are you wearing his costume? And it would be one of these things where I bested him. I get to wear the costume because he fell before me. Man, that would be so interesting. And while we're talking about that era of Batman stories, how fitting would it be for Kraven the Hunter to be in No Man's Land?
Fantastic. He'd be at home.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like a lawless Gotham, oh man, he would fit so perfectly in that era of Batman stories. And then you would still get, stories like Kraven's Last Hunt and stories that are these seminal, well-written stories that make Kraven not just like a really cool action character, but also a really cool emotional character, a character for you to get invested in, a character that, like you said, has weight to it, because you realize every time he shows up, you've got to have like all of your attention focused on Kraven the Hunter.
And I feel like it would help, because we like to as well see, okay, would the character be more successful if they were in DC? I think Kraven, without a doubt, would be well better served if he was a Batman Rogues Gallery, just because of how much push they always get. And I think Kraven would immediately skyrocket to like one of the top of that for people, just because he's got a unique design. He's easily discernible to know what he's about, even in like simple stories. He works in lighter Batman stories, like you could throw him in Brave and the Bold as like a kooky kind of character still, but he also works extremely well in the darker shit. He's just as versatile in those. Whereas Spider-Man, the thing with Kraven's Last Hunt is it's the outlier of Spider-Man stories. Is like people get this misinterpreted. A lot of Spider-Man fans where they always want Spider-Man to be like a tragic figure. Spider-Man only has like a major tragedy like once every 10 years or something. Like then they'll do like a really like dark storyline. Like it's not back to back. Like normally it's just general adventures, kind of lighthearted but sometimes more serious. Like he's got a different kind of tone to him, and Kraven kind of works better in a darker tone. Whereas Batman, that's the standard. Like Kraven's Last Hunt is a standard Batman story. Like it'd be a more well told one than the standard, but it's not as big a tone shift as it was for Spider-Man. So I feel like Kraven would fit, and he'd get more writers willing to do stuff with him like that, because Marvel's a bit more protective of what they put Spider-Man through, whereas DC at that time period would be like, oh yeah, Kraven, let's make it as full, as dark as possible, let's have Batman be hunted, let's have Batman. It would be interesting as well, because Spider-Man's much younger than Kraven. Like Kraven's in his 50s, pushing 60s as we go on now, but like at him getting to speak to Bruce Wayne as like an adult to an adult, like Spider-Man and Kraven's Last Hunt isn't a kid, but he's got that bit of immaturity where he freaks out a little bit. He can't talk to Kraven really man to man, because he's got a different. Peter Parker just works differently than Kraven. He doesn't see the nobility of a hunt or anything. He's not about that. Batman completely gets it. He's all about the ceremony and like the mystique and like I see what you're going for with the theatrics. I think you're a madman, but he'd almost have the kind of respect he has for Kraven, where he'd be like, you are a figure of. They could do team ups even if like there's a criminal on the loose and like Kraven's like, I want to hunt them down. I will not kill because I respect your laws of the hunt. They're fine. I don't have to kill a creature to prove I'm better than it. That's fine. And they could do a team up issue where like Batman would be like working alongside Kraven is discerning because I always have to wash my back, but at the same time I know he's always there. So it's almost like you could get really interesting shit between these two normal men who have pushed themselves to the peak through different methods.
Well, and what's interesting, like when you brought him up in the same vein as Rage, like you could almost see Kraven being one of Bruce Wayne's mentors.
Oh yeah, like, when he taught him how to hunt in Africa. That'd be so fucking cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like that would be so. And then what I was thinking even more so than that, like that just popped up as you were talking. But how cool would it be if during, if Grant Morrison's Batman Incorporated hadn't got cut short? How cool would it have been if Kraven the Hunter was the villain of Batman Incorporated, like going around and hunting, and going around hunting all of the Batmen of the world. Because they did that. They did a little bit of that in the New 52, where like someone was going around killing Batmen of the world. Kraven would be a perfect fit for that. Like, how dare you wear this costume? I get it. You're doing it to honor this man, but how dare you wear this costume and then not be able to best me?
Yeah, very well. You have put on the mantle of the bat. I will give you a trial by fire. If you survive, well done. If you do not, then you are not worthy of in the first place.
Yeah, we got to talk to somebody about this, Alfie. Like this, we got to get some sort of deal going, because this is a money idea.
Yeah, Kraven as a Batman villain.
Yeah,
is a no-brainer at all. Yeah. Like it's completely. Like we mentioned the Bane thing. I like Bane a lot more than you do, but I think one of my big takeaways with these two is like, I think we just found Bane's best friend. I think they would be so, like, these two would be brothers. Like, legit, if they met, they may have, like, a bit of a fisticuffs, but they'd probably get closer as a result of that. They'd have, like, kind of, like, anime, like, Goku, Vegeta thing, oh, we punched for a bit, and now we're brothers.
While you were saying that, just hear me out here, because think about how cool this would be. So we see a lot of, like, the dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and Bane's upbringings. Like Bane had to come up from the sunken, prison. Bruce Wayne was high up and then was brought down low, and they kind of meet in the middle. How cool would it be if you introduce Bane, you introduce Batman, that Kraven was one of Batman's trainers, taught him how to be a predator in Africa. But how cool would it be if, like, you introduce Bane, 10 years down the line, you do a story where Kraven teams up with Bane, and Batman kind of asks, Kraven, why are you teaming up with this guy? And you realize that Kraven was the one that pulled Bane out of the prison, or something like that, where you realize he's actually been a mentor to both of them.
Yeah,
because if you want to have
both.
Right, like if you want to have Kraven be this elder statesman of Batman villains, how cool would it be if he was the glue between them? And so you could almost have this like three-way battle between Kraven, Batman, and Bane. His dynamic with Batman would just be so cool. And that's really where the story ideas, I think, open up for him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've talked about Batman for a lot, but I guess just closing up, are there any other interactions outside of the Batman family that you think would be you'd like to mention quickly?
Animal Man, I think, would be cool. There's probably a potential for like a one-off Superman story where Lex Luthor brings in Kraven the Hunter and is like, teach me the ways of the hunt. That way we can hunt this rare creature that is that is Superman.
Oh, it would be fantastic though. You just popped into my head. Fucking Kraven hunts Doomsday.
Oh man, that would be amazing. Yeah,
the most dangerous game in the universe.
Right. Yeah, because I was gonna say Kraven in space is a joke, but then you made it sound awesome. So
Kraven in space is not everything in space is badass. Yeah. I don't care. If you take anything in all of fiction and put in space after it, it immediately becomes 10 times cooler.
Right. Because he's hunting space stuff, all that kind of things. Kraven and Swamp Thing, I think, would be really interesting.
I could see them having Kraven protecting Swamp Thing for like an issue.
Right, or you could even do once they get into the weirder stuff of the green and the red and the rot and all that kind of stuff, you could almost see Kraven becoming like an avatar of the red, and the war of the red and the green and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I could see that him joining the Suicide Squad or the crime syndicate. Not the crime syndicate. What is it? The Society of Evil. He could do that. I think he would make a really interesting like JSA villain.
Yeah.
He would, a Hawkman villain. He would be really cool. Of course, you're just pairing him off with animal related heroes because that's his like most famous gimmick. But I really do think that he works well in a lot of contexts, like more so than Lex Luthor. I feel like Kraven works really well for 1-issue, 2-issue stories.
Yeah.
Paired off, because Lex Luthor is such an event level villain that I feel like you could do these shorter stories with him, but he shines in events, whereas I feel like Kraven would really shine in these smaller stories, whether it's against Batman or the Bat Family or anybody else. But yeah, I mean, like Kraven hunting Lobo, come on, like that is such a good 90s story. Like, like that would, which we could go ahead and have Chuck Dixon write that. That seems like something Chuck Dixon could do. But yeah, I don't know. I think he works so well. Maybe this might be the best fit that we've had thus far. I mean, I know we've only had 4. This is the 4th episode, but as far as like a character that fits naturally in the universe, I think Kraven's the best fit we've had.
Yeah, 100%. I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that although we'd be robbing Spider-Man of one of his greatest villains, I think he'd survive without him. Whereas I feel like the amount of, as a character, Kraven would be so much better served in the DC universe.
I definitely agree there. Yeah, I feel like it just plays to his strengths more. The tone of the universe plays to his strengths more, and I feel like you would get more stories on the level of Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yeah.
Because as we stand right now, there's like 10 or more amazing Green Goblin stories, right? There's 10 or more amazing Doc Ock stories. I think there's probably even more Lizard stories than there are Kraven the Hunter stories.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and then and Venom and Carnage, and I think Kraven's got Kraven's Last Hunt, and that's what makes him so notable. Like you said, he carries that weight. But I feel like in Batman or in DC in general, you've got 7 stories that are on the level of Kraven's Last Hunt, and that's where I think Kraven really does deserve something like that. Like, it's nice to have a villain that only shows up every so often with the weight of Kraven, but he's just so cool that he deserves to be in the spotlight more.
Definitely. But yeah, if anyone else down below agrees with us, or maybe you disagree with us and you would think like Kraven works better in Marvel for specific reasons, please let us know down below, because part of this is trying to advocate fan interaction and just fan theorizing and all that good stuff. So yeah, as always, it's been a pleasure with you, Jake. Next time, I'm not completely sure what we'll be doing, but maybe a team, maybe something else. Who knows? It's exciting times, but it's one of my favorite series to do with you. It's always a pleasure. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and we'll do DC to Marvel again. We just did Marvel to DC, but we don't know who we're gonna do yet. So somebody from DC will be going to Marvel, but who it will be, nobody knows.
Yeah, so book your train tickets from the Multiverse Highway or something. I don't know. But yeah, take it easy, folks.
I do like a multiverse train, though. Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Adios.